All right, I'm grounded enough after working in the dirt a lot. I'm going to try to put together my thoughts on the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, and the pink sticky tabs that relate to me. I mentioned in another video that things specifically happened to me that are in this book, and I tried looking at it all at once and I couldn't deal with it for a while. I think I can now, but I am going to not cover all 35 tabs. It's way too many. So I'm going to just jump around to a few of them. For the first one, starting out with Pink Sticky 2, this is on page 64 of this book. This is key 107-32, and I'm paraphrasing for copyright or whatever. So I'm just going to paraphrase it. It's talking about at the end of a grand cycle of time, this higher intelligence allows fallen orders, lower levels of intelligence, to appear upon the earth to kind of tempt people to see whether we'll serve the lesser space gods or this higher source intelligence. Which are you going to choose? I did my video called The Choice is My Strange Happening 69. This specifically happened. Two groups of beings came into my bedroom at midnight and I had to make a choice. Here's a short video clip of that.
And the thing is, I had to make a choice. I think that's what those two sets of entities were doing, and trying to get me to make a choice between one or the other, and I wouldn't do it then. Then finally, things came to a head, and I said, I'm ready. And I made a choice. I made a choice. Oh, it's really the only choice I can make. So which would you choose? Think about it. Which would you choose? The thing with me, I think outside the box. I see more than what's there. I didn't choose either one. I chose that higher conscious that I've always seen, that has always been there for me.
Next is page 132, key 114-11. It's talking about man as a light imprint is being harmonized through mirror-like projections emanating through prism faces of crystal. I have a video out there called Emerald Armor, something like that. I'll put a video clip here, but what it came down to was this sparkling emerald green crystals all around me, and on the inside it was a mirror, and this is what it's talking about. And I mentioned it appeared when I kind of came together in myself after I learned to forgive everyone. So interesting.
That occurred yesterday and early this morning. So yesterday coming down, driving a long stretch of road, my hands on the steering wheel, I start feeling a little tingling and something moving up my fingers. And in my mind, what I'm seeing is like a scale type of armor, deep emerald green with a little silver in it. Kind of odd, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. And it's moving up my fingers, over my hands, and going up my arms. About the time it got halfway up my arms, a song comes on the radio. I talk about songs and coincidences and my crazy little world and stuff like that. I was playing Pandora through the speakers on my phone, and a song came on Pandora. And I was like, what is this song? I really like it. And it was called Chosen One by Two Steps from Hell. And I'm like, huh? That's really weird. But my crazy little world. All right. But anyway, you know, my fantasy world, I like to think myself bigger than I probably am. Anyway, I feel this armor going on my arms, and it continued like that for 5 to 6 minutes. It took a long time, but it went up my arms. A helmet started coming down over my head. This chest armor started coming on, moving down my body. And I'm seeing this in my mind, and I'm feeling it, almost feeling it. Go down me. So that's what's happening. And then it goes down my waist, down my legs, into the boots over my feet. But I am feeling an overlay of this deep greenish sparkling with silver. It's like scales almost, armor. It's weird. I know it's crazy sounding, but this armor, this emerald green armor that seems to be around me now, and I mentioned it has some silver in it. I just noticed what that silver was. It's on the inside. It's like two sides of the armor. One side, the outside, is this emerald green color
emerald green, and the inside isn't just silver. It's a mirror. It's like a mirror on the inside of the armor. All this armor on the inside is a mirror.
Next, I am putting together two different pink sticky tabs. This is pink sticky tab 4 and my pink sticky number 8. The first one, number 4, comes off page 134. This is key 114-48. It talks about how our consciousness is attached to a higher intelligence on the other side of a river of crystal. My number 8 pink sticky tab. This is from page 186. This is key 201-38. It's talking about things that are sealed up, which is revealed to those who have passed through living fire to behold the throne kind of thing of the source intelligence, what I call it. Thing with this one is I've mentioned it at different parts in different videos. I saw this when I had this kind of near-death experience kind of thing. This was part of it. And I saw a pattern, a matrix. Before, I called it a river of diamonds. It was like a river of diamonds. They called it a river of crystal, but I considered it like diamonds because it was clear and sparkling, and I don't know what's better than diamonds. So I called it diamonds instead of crystal, just diamonds in front of, it was like this gold transparent throne thing from source, a big light emanating from it, things like that. And I saw that, and there it is. I planted trees in the matrix I saw in front of this river of crystal down at the pink house. I planted trees there, the trees I planted in the pattern of the matrix I saw. This was 8 years before I started putting videos out. So this was 8 years before. So that would have been around 2011. I started planting trees down there, the apples, the pears, everything else. And I planted them in the matrix that I saw in front of this river of crystal.
I talked about seeing the source, the universal consciousness, and it told me its true name and stuff like that. What I didn't tell you after I saw that and came back here is it was painful to be here. It hurt to be here. There was so much positive love, perfection, joy, overwhelming music that ever arced upwards and never stopped ever. It never ended. It never ended. It was beyond anything I can even try to recall. I can try to recall it, and I can't even imagine it myself, even though I remember it. It was just so overwhelming. But I do remember coming back here, and just being here hurt. It was painful.
The next is going to be on page 194. This is key 202-40. At the very end of that paragraph, there's a symbol that is 2 dots with 1 dot underneath in parentheses. What is that? The next paragraph, it says this represents the divine breath being infused into primary amino acids. Again, I'm paraphrasing. And that was even on the example of my video called Light Language with Yvonne Perry, talking about speaking light language. And I mentioned that I used to write it, just pages and pages and pages of it. And I quickly wrote an example down right before I did that video. Before I bought this book. And that is one of my symbols, and I'll show a photo of that from that video. The next pink sticky 10, page 207, key 204-1. I believe that's what it is, 204-1. It's talking about telethought communication produced by modulation of gravitational waves. And it also goes into these gravitational waves carrying coatings of light intelligence from larger parts of the universe. I put that in my presentation to Wish Alliance just because of what I saw in that download that happened in the shower in my Strange Happening 55. This massive download knocked me to the floor in the shower. And I was seeing waves of light moving through the universe, and I looked up gravity waves, and I talked about it. Here's a short clip of that. Waves of light like that moving through the universe, and I'm like, okay, so I'm seeing this as consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere. It's everything. It's part of everything. It's beyond time. It crosses dimensions. Consciousness is everywhere. Wait a minute. Why did I say that on that video? Why did I say quantum gravity? What? Why did I say that? So I typed in waves and gravity in a search engine, and sure enough, there in February of 2016, scientists announced they had detected gravity waves moving through space. It was a collision of two black holes. And for the first time, they detected gravity waves moving through space. And I'm like, wait a minute. Here's letting your mind go. This is what it's like.
The
What
space
if,
weather of it all. It's
yeah,
out there, man. The atmosphere is real.
what if gravity is an expression of consciousness at this lower dimension? What if they're the same thing? It's just expressed different at this dimension. Next, this is on page 222, key 205-59. It's talking about messengers of light being able to create an artificial time warp to help liberate men from being trapped in his black and white spirals of energy. I have a video out there, songs on the radio, and I mentioned about even at the Pink House, that last Arc Entity fight, these black and white strands of spiraling like DNA spiraling up and around me. And I talked about that again before reading this book. I don't even know that I had bought this book yet. And I was feeling that. And there it was. And here it is. Again, this is why it blows my mind sometimes. And at the Pink House during that time, something happened as I was laying on the couch. It was like a DNA chain, like a black strand and a white strand just weaving in and out like a DNA chain. Is something's changing in me or something. Yeah, I'm like 10-15 minutes away from my last video I just did. Maybe a Siri is hearing the word protector and throwing stuff up for me now, but there's another song that just came up. It is so weird, but maybe that's all this algorithm and electronic stuff in these cars these days, listening to what I'm saying. I don't know. It's also very weird. I hope you can see by this point why I was freaking out trying to see all this at once, because all this is happening to me before I read this book, and then here it all is in this book. So that's why it freaked me out. Here's another one that freaked me out, is page 249. This is key 208-18 through 20. Just one piece of this talks about beings of light who are incarnation of the Benai Elohim. They're able to send their mind body into these time programs, into physical bodies that we have here. And I'm like, I mentioned in the earlier video about the river crystal and the throne. And when that happened, I got one word came through it, and I was never to speak it. And then I heard my mentor say it. And then I saw it in this book. But that happened when I was a teenager. This is way back when, in the 70s, the late 70s, sometime. And the word I got was Elohai. Instead of Elohim, it was straight at me, like Elohai, like that. And it's just, and now I can say it because somebody else has said it. Then I read it, kind of confirming it to myself. And I put that in one of my videos. And then there it was. So, freaked me out. All right, this one is a little more complicated, but this happened during my walk-in experience when I was going through puberty, teenager. Page 281, key 212, 30 through 34. It's talking about an overself. If it exists, it may be allowed to bypass certain chromosomal stages, allowing a new physical creation to be directly placed in resonance with the overself, so they can match and come in and bypass it, coming through the 8th chakra and latching in that way. So if it matches the overself to what's inside this body, the frequency of light generated allows a new physical manifestation to house the soul. It can overlap the human biological form in the light shells of color surrounding this form. In the past videos, I talk about having, it's like I'm two people. Most of you may be thinking this is like split personality, or I'm talking about my two worlds, my scientific world and this crazy little world of mine. That's what I'm talking about. Two minds of something. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about when it says it feels like I'm two people is physically two people in one space is what I'm talking about. I don't know that I can do it here with a shadow hand, but it's like, here's my hands, but there's also a second set of hands right beside them, or was like right beside them. So it's like I have four hands. That's what it was like. So it was like a
Invisible second me.
And this is another one that really freaked me out. Page 391, key 305, 46. Because this is something I would do in the single digits of age. As a very small child, I have a video I recorded way back when. I'll put the video clip here. But I did this as a child when me and my brother would take baths in the bathtub together. And when I was by myself, this is what I would do. And it talks about it right here. Talking about you can use a pyramidal focus created by the hands over the third eye to amplify the sacred greeting for sending and receiving spiritual instructions. Every time I got in the bathtub, I would do that. And it talks about it right here. And that was before this book was written. This book was written in 1973. My single digit age, I was born in 1963. That was before this book was written. And here it is in this book. And that's what I did. And there it is.
Back very young kids, young boys, me and my brother, young enough to where we're still in the bathtub together, very little kids. How old is that? What, 4, 5, 6? I don't know. Taking a bath together. Best thing we like to do is make bubble baths and splash it out on the tile floor. Then we'd jump out and slide across the tile floor, and then Mom would walk in and there's water everywhere. So we would just slide across the floor having fun. So that's what we did. But when I'm by myself, even at, 5, 6 years old, one of the things I used to do is I would make a triangle like this and hold it to my forehead and come out like this with my eyes, and it had the bubble in there. So it's still a bubble, like with all the colors, the pretty colors. And I would look at that bubble, and the closer I'd look at it, and it's pretty, and the closer I put it to my eyes, it's like I was seeing somewhere else. I was able to see other places, other things happening. So that was the beginning of being able to see elsewhere, and I will talk about that in a different video.
This video is getting so long. This may have to be the last one. This is Pink Sticky 20. This is page 404, key 307, 16 through 18. It's talking about the fire letters, how the pages are transparent. This was a particular scroll that he was seeing. You could read it on both sides, but you had to go within to see the meaning of both sides of the scroll. Go within the characters, these glowing characters, fire letters, and how one side is the masters of light to code physical creation from the heavenly sides of the human race was but a transparent reversal of the divine image. But you had to go into the fire letters to understand and see. And that's a memory from before I was born, seeing that in that book. And I'm like, are you serious? That was way before this book was written. So I had that memory, and I forced myself to remember. And that's some memories from before I was born. And it's right there. All right, one more. Pink Sticky 32. I don't know that this has anything to do with anything, honestly, but it's interesting. Page 549, key 319, number 43. It talks about folks that are already operating on the 7th chakra level of enlightenment, that they'll enter a new program of consciousness around 1976, around that time frame, the era around there. That's when my walk-in happened. And I'm like, that's weird. He put a date down like that. That's weird. And then he said for those on the 6th chakra level around the 1980s, and then those on the 4th and 5th chakra level comes around 2004, around in there, some years before and after, just in that general time zone. And now this marks the beginning of the next great cycle. Huh. Well, I guess I might as well put this one up there too. Pink Sticky 35, the very last one. This is third to the last page, 557, key 319, 140. It's talking about after a cleansing of great military forces, toward the end of everything, where hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of negative beings were prevented by a barrier of light from scourging and blah, 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 blah. Barrier of light. I'm like, really? I learned how to do that. And that was in my mind. That's what I told Sheila Seppi before I read that in this book. And just knowing it in my head that that's what I'm supposed to do kind of after I die thing. And I've talked about that before I read it here. This is why I freak out. And that's just a quick skipping a bunch of pink stickies. So it's like, this happened, memories from before I was born, things I did at single ages as kid before this book was written. My walk-in experience and all that happening, and putting these videos out, explaining some of this, trying to talk about it, and then reading it all in here. And it's just like, that's why it freaked me out.